Eggs is a podcast about all things creative, regardless of what that means to you. From the creativity involved in launching a business, building a brand, crafting an entertainment career, or whatever, we talk about the process of growing your egg from start to finish. Today's show is brought to you by Goodside Skateboards. Go to www.goodsideskateboards.com for great deals on decks and awesome t-shirts and pretty much anything you can think of. Well, not quite. Anyways, enter Egg Show, that's EGGSSHOW, when you check out. And get 20% off? Yeah, I think it's 20%. Anyways, Egg Show when you check out to get 20% off at goodsideskateboards.com. Also, don't forget to check out our friends at Deli Fresh Threads. They're a Florida-based clothing company. They specialize in t-shirts and other apparel. And they celebrate what they call the King of Meals, the sandwich. Check out their website, delifreshthreads.com. And make sure you enter Egg Show when you go to check out for 10% off. That's EGGSSHOW. Get 10% off when you check out. All right, delifreshthreads.com.
Right here, right now. Calling out to all area crew. We gon' make it all happen right here, right now. Calling out to all area crew. We gon' make it all happen right here, right now. Calling out to all area crew. We gon' make it all happen right here, right now.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Eggs. I'd like to welcome a good friend of mine, owner of Branded Baron, and a homeboy that I met back in Cleveland named Joe Baron. I met Joe a couple years back at the WMC Fest in Cleveland, Ohio. For longtime listeners of the Eggs show, you've heard me talk about this quite a bit. And along with other guests we've had on the show, Anderson Blue and Will Turin, just to name a couple, Joe was part of a group of strangers that were sort of kind enough to allow me to hang out with them when I was just a boy lost alone in the city. Joe is a New York, New Jersey-based art director and designer. He's worked on a broad range of clients, including the Immortal Harley-Davidson and Crimson Roses. Really talented dude, a lot of fun, all-around great guy, and we're thrilled to have him on the show. Ladies and gents, Joe Baron.
Hey, everyone. How you doing?
Hey, man. Welcome to the show. So let me give everybody just a little bit of background on how this came together, because it's kind of funny. So we had another guest previously scheduled. Joe is, as always, the number two. And so we had put together a show for this week, and due to a scheduling conflict and some other things, we ended up having to move it around. So we were in a little bit of a kerfuffle day of recording here, and I reached out to Joe.
And he was kind enough to jump on last minute.
Yeah, kind enough to oblige. Originally, the plan was to push him back to like April-ish. I believe, at least presently, the plan is that we're all going to be attending a creative conference together.
And by the way, Ryan said he's going to put me on the show. He's saying that in air quotes for those that can't see.
No. I'll get to all you guys. I need all the guests I can get. And so anyway, we decided, or Joe was actually the first person I reached out to today, and he came through
get
big
to my heart.
That's right. Trying to work our way in. So with that, Joe, let's give the fine people a little bit of background. Who are you? Where are you from? How do we know you, and what do you do?
All right. Well, you pretty much said how you know me. I am Joe Baron. I am a designer, art director, as mentioned. I used to own my company was also a clothing line companies that released some great, awesome graphic tees, the best you might have ever seen, or the best you've never heard of, but did okay.
And that brand was Branded Baron, correct?
That was Branded Baron. It's actually also my company name. So I kept it all together under one umbrella, so it's Branded Baron.
We'll be sure to leave some plugs and everything. We'll put it at the end of the show also.
If you don't know, it's brandedbaron.com and everything Branded Baron. Come on, I have my dad's in TV. I know how to plug.
There you go. Yeah. So, growing up, your dad worked in TV, and is that kind of how you got into the design side of things, or is that something you just knew you wanted to do?
To be honest, no, I don't know. See, my dad did work at TV. He's a Emmy award-winning video editor, and he has a successful company out in New York, in Manhattan. Yeah. So I got to see that. I got to see the crazy clientele, the New York busy agency life, that people go crazy, the heavy work, the work nights where he worked late and wouldn't see him until, the next day, early in the morning when he just arrived. It was like
hit a deadline.
That hard work. But one little funny story, sort of. It was my birthday. He had to work late. My mom was obviously not happy about that. He came in, be tired, working overtime all night on whatever gig it was or whatever project, and he asked me because he was so beat. I was like ribs. I was like barbecue on my birthday. That was my go-to meal. And he would always.
I went to that last night.
Ooh, sounds delicious.
Yes, it was.
Ooh, maybe I want barbecue later. Anyway,
You can't go wrong with barbecue.
He can't. So yeah, he just asked. He figured since I was a little kid, I'm not smart enough to know what good food is. He's like, hey, do you want pizza instead of a barbecue and everything? I'm like, nope, I want a barbecue. And I went on my way. And then it just happened to be raining outside as he started cooking. And he just goes up, looks up at the sky. Because I actually caught a glimpse of him saying, look up at the sky. He goes like, take me now. Take me now.
Well, for anybody that's worked in anything agency related, and I'm sure Joe can relate, there is no shortage of late nights. And I think we've probably all begged to be taken more than once.
Yeah. Exactly. Actually, I'm off today, but yet I'm not really off. I'm still working. So.
Yeah.
Well, that's the lifestyle of anyone that's really self-employed. You're never really off the clock.
Oh yeah, you're never off the clock. That's I don't think people seem to know that, and people who aren't familiar with that or haven't seen it, they're not used to it.
Yes. Yeah, no, it's funny. I get critique all the time because it looks like I'm not doing anything a lot of the time. So I might just send some emails or whatever, but I can move around. My schedule's pretty flexible. So folks that have that 9-to-5 grind. Sometimes look at me like, what's this guy up to? So it's kind of funny how,
or even if most people who even are a salary, it doesn't even matter. Like some people work hourly, some salary, and it just doesn't matter. Like you have to get the job done, and that's the way it is.
Sure. So as Mike was starting to allude to, so at what point or like where did you find that you were sort of a creative guy? I mean, obviously your dad's in the business. Did you grow up in a creative household? Were you surrounded by other creative people, or is this just sort of you?
It was sort of me. I guess my dad had to be somewhat creative to edit some of the promos and stuff. So I probably got that from him. But I've always liked drawing. I just was fun to me. And it's just one of those things that I would draw as a kid. Saw that video games were popular. Or like were becoming popular, during the whole Nintendo age and all that. I was just like, got to draw, do those characters, make my own. I made my own Battletoads, my Double Dragon.
I remember Battletoads.
Yeah, right. It's a good game.
That was a good one. Yeah.
Right. See, throwback.
We're showing our age, Joe. That's the problem.
But the thing is, I'm still younger, so.
Hey, now. Come on. So, all right. So you started from a young age. You were drawing everything. Did you go to school for design? Did you always think you'd be a designer, or what? How did you end up down this path?
I always drew. I always knew I wanted to draw. I didn't know what I wanted to be, but I always wanted to do art, and I always wanted to be some sort of artist of some sort. And it was just funny, like. I guess in some sense I knew I wanted to be a designer, being a kid, drawing my own logos for my own professional teams or NBA, my own, what the new rebrand of the NBA team would look like, or MLB. So I guess I had that in the background a little bit, but when I was looking for schools, because I had to go to college, because believe it or not, you still need a degree in a lot of companies and stuff like that to make money. Yeah. I knew my dad. My dad worked with a bunch of designers. He asked them to get opinions and stuff like that. And being that it's in New York, some of them went to art schools and stuff like that. So he pretty much told me like, hey, look into graphic design. It's pretty much the art that makes money.
It's true. Well, that's what they tell you anyway.
Yeah, as I tell you, it's being a designer is not an artist, but there's an art to design.
Yeah, it's true. Well, I mean, there's definitely plenty of parallels, and I think a lot of the best designers are artists also. And Joe's quite the artist also. He illustrates, but I've seen some paint work and some other things that he's done along the way. And I think those people that have sort of a hand skill seem to be the strongest designers, or at least most of them that I've come across. The ones that can draw are usually, have a better eye or are better equipped to be good designers. Not to say that you can't be a great designer if you can't draw, but it definitely gives you a leg up.
It's true, but at the same time, I firmly believe that anybody could be a designer. You just if you could teach them, if you teach it like in class in school, I think people can learn can have the can design. They may not have the fantastic eye, that great touch, but they can certainly design. I think.
Maybe that's a good point. Maybe it's not that some are better designers than others, but maybe they just come about it a different way. Maybe those who have the hand skill or some sort of, I guess, natural talent or God-given talent, maybe are better able to jump right in. And maybe we get around a few corners, things like that. Where other guys are having to learn the theory and all that stuff. So I guess it's not really better or worse. It's just
it's just a different way of doing things.
Yeah, So I used to have Ryan design flyers for me back in the day, and it got to the point where I needed more flyers than I could just keep asking him to do. And so instead of, annoying him every 2 days, hey, I need another flyer, buddy, I just kind of I jumped on Photoshop. I'd watched him do a few things, and I started doing it myself. And I look back at some of the stuff that I did.
Did you make it more blue? Did you make it bluer?
Dude, I didn't know anything about layout. There was one flyer I did where the font was the same color as the background almost, and you could hardly see it. Contrasting stuff. Like little things that you don't really think of until you work with someone who is a designer and has an eye for that stuff, and you can kind of start seeing stuff down the road. I never drew as a kid. I never did anything, but I'd say now, my work level and what I can put out now versus way back when we were doing shows and stuff is night and day. Like
yes.
I feel I could get like an entry level job if I wanted to.
Yeah. So to Joe's point, you came about it in a different angle or a less traditional way, maybe.
Yeah.
But you were able to learn the skills and things necessary.
Well, as far as like design or layout or anything like that, like I had never done any of that until Photoshop was around. So drawing, I drew stick figures, played Hangman every now and then. That was about it.
Hangman's a fun game.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with Hangman. Yeah. So Joe, you and I have some parallels in that we both sort of took to T-shirts and the clothing business as a outlet for creativity. Did you start Branded Baron Clothing prior to working as a designer? Like, had you worked in a place as a designer first and then moved into the clothing business? How did that work?
That's a good question, Ryan. Very good question. You should pat yourself on the back for that one. This is me stalling. The answer is not really. I kind of started both at the same time.
Okay.
Okay, so it was probably early 2000. I was still in college, and graphic tees were on the rise up before they hit the boom. What I would call the graphic tees boom, where you saw everybody wearing, everybody had their own company.
Sure.
And I graduated. I knew I wanted to be part of it. Had the degree, was designing, but I also knew that I kind of wanted to be part of it. So I looked into the research and did my, I did my research, looked into it, see what I needed to get done, see what I had to do, see what I needed to be prepared. I ended up somehow coming across, I had a former coworker that did her own line, and that kind of like drove me even further. Also seeing the internet and seeing the community, people driving together to create. It was a lot of the time. It was the site was called MTees. I think it's now called Minties, but what they showcased was a lot of t-shirt art, and you had a lot of people who did big merchandise for bands, artists, other companies, independent clothing lines, as well as just self-promotion. So I saw that, and between that, it just kind of drove me a little bit further, and I was able to dig and dig and dig and dig and dig and dig until I found all the information needed. I happened to end up working a couple months later at a screen printing company and learning the ins and outs, and found the production side of that, which is totally different from what people are used to. People, for designers, you see your screen, you see your paper, however you sketch and lay it out. Click, 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 boom, you have it. This is fantastic. Shadows here, shadows there, glow, diamonds, whatever. It's perfect. And then now it becomes a part of how are you going to transfer that over into a quality screen printing T-shirt or a garment. It's a totally different process because you're thinking from the back end, you're thinking from a production standpoint. You're thinking like, no, I have to separate these colors in order to mesh it together. And for those that aren't familiar with screen printing, just think of it as like a stencil. You create a stencil and then you would spray it, and then you add another stencil to add another color, and then back and forth like that. But now with ink and using a squeegee to push the ink through the screen.
Yeah, things get super complicated with things like drop shadows and glows, especially. That's why I was laughing when you said that.
Yeah,
I was
right.
like, oh, yeah, halftones are about the hardest thing to pull off well.
It is, and there's different ways to do it. People separate differently. I mean, it's a totally. There are people who are just good at it, and some people who are just okay at it. It's not, and every print company operates differently when they're preparing how to print it. But either way, I was able to learn all the information that I needed to create something cool and awesome, something to wear, and like what inks, what's that, and luckily that place did big companies. They they had big clients. They did something for Ralph Lauren, which was funny because they came to them. They wanted something to print in their jeans. They thought there was this special crazy process, and they didn't want to go overseas to do it. And it was like, he's like, we just use water-based ink, printed over them, over the jeans, and boom, we just we up the price, and boom, that's it. Client done. And, yeah, right? It's amazing. But yeah, so I've worked at a couple screen printing companies, and I've got to see how they operate and how they worked, and it was good to see. It was good to know how they did things and how they ran their business, because most screen printing companies are small companies where it's a small business, and you got to see how that person operates. And I got to see the back end and see like, oh, okay, and it worked over for doing my own freelance, doing my own business. I was like, oh, okay, get the money up front or get a card up front. So once the job is done, you can still run it after everything's complete. It's like, yeah, okay, so you don't get burned. That makes perfect sense.
Well, and I think that's a really good point, too, because, a lot of people have a hard time asking for money, especially designers and stuff. It's, most of us just want to be artists, and most of us just want to design. We're not in the collecting money business. Yeah, no. At this point, I realize I'm taking the Goodfellas approach. Fuck you, pay me. That's right. Well, that's the thing. It's kind of a maturity, right? I mean, when you were younger and you were just getting started in this game, I mean, that was the last thing. Oh no, everyone will pay me. Come on, it's okay, not a big deal. Yeah, and everybody always gets nervous about money. Talk about money, like this or that. But I think as you mature and you grow and you start to do more business, you start to go, okay, well, we got to talk money first. I got to get that deposit. I got to get that card. I need to have that on file, and part of it's protecting yourself, but part of it's also just being professional. Of course, you got to be. That's also something that's very important that I need in working with somebody is to be professional. It's frustrating working for somebody who's not or slacks a little bit. But again, maybe I'm a little bit harder, stricter because I know what I want and I need to get things done. But I mean, it just. Well, one of the hardest things is working with a client who just doesn't know what they want in the first place. And trying to get halfway done with something. Oh, do this, do that, and you as a designer, you're like, man, we could have avoided 8 steps if you just would have told me up front what you needed, and we could have. And in my experience, most clients don't want to pay for all that extra back and forth either. No, never. Ryan, don't you like when they do
they make you do all the work, and then you realize, no, we want something totally different?
Yeah, I'm good with it if we're on retainer or we've planned for that. But yeah, no, I mean, I'm sure you've got 100 experiences like this as well. But I mean, yeah, I mean, that's one of the most frustrating things out there is when, you're given direction from a client. It's from a position of power, like they know what they want. This is what we've got to get accomplished. You present them with that, and then they go, it's not really what I had in mind. Can you go back and redo it? And like I said, if it's paid for, no problem. I'm glad to work through the process. But I think that what's underlying there is the importance of good communication with a client, making sure that they're on board, helping you each step of the way, or as much as you can involve them. Some clients may be better left not too involved.
Yeah, sometimes you got to be you got to walk, got to lead them, and sometimes they just let you do what you got to do.
Well, Ryan, the last time you did my logo, I remember I didn't like it initially at first, like the new one. And there was like 4 or 5 other ones, and I was like, well, let's go down this route. Let's do this or whatever. And you kind of replied back, nope, this is the one.
Well, I can do that because it was you, though.
Yeah, exactly.
Most clients, I can't just give the middle finger and tell them.
But you know what? It's grown on me. Like, I like it a lot. Like, it's one of by far the best logo I've ever had.
Well, he secretly hates it.
Well, see, I didn't realize he was harboring this resentment. I mean, the show.
He waited for the right opportunity to strike.
Really. Well, and he did it right in front of you so that I wouldn't, go too nuts.
That's for me not being the first choice. I get that. He's trying to be on my good side. I get it. I like it.
I'll hit you up next time I need a logo.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, geez. We're building bridges here. So one thing I want to talk about, Joe, is I happen to know that you're quite the martial artist. You've been at it for a long time. Can you tell us about what you do, what you like about it, and maybe how discipline developed in the process of being a martial artist has helped you in your career?
I pretty much, it's good to know that I could kick ass and take names.
That would be
nice.
That's
not
not a bad thing.
Yeah. I've always been interested. Let's see. Let's go with the typical number one reason why people like it. Bruce Lee. I was a kid and I saw a lot of martial art films, especially Bruce Lee.
Enter
Karate
the Dragon.
Kid. Enter the Dragon is my favorite. I printed myself. I was able to get we had a digital garment, the DTG direct-to-garment printer. Yeah, direct-to-garment printer, which is a regular printer, but it prints on the T-shirt itself. So for those who are imagining, instead of printing paper, it prints put a T-shirt. And it comes right through. So I printed one of the cover of Enter the Dragon. I'm like, it's my favorite. I'm like, nice. It's awesome.
We used to have like a VHS tape with it on it, but the worst part is like my dad recorded it off the TV. And he didn't get the end, so we would watch it, and I never saw the end of that movie until like 10 years later.
That's awesome. So, but have you found, Joe, that your sport of choice is Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Have you found that the sort of the discipline of having to work through that? Like, have you found in your career, in your life in general? I mean, I know you're kind of a hustler anyway, but I mean, is some of that driven from the type of discipline you learn in a martial art, or was that just sort of always in you?
It's a little bit of both. I mean, I've taken Taekwondo when I was a kid. I stopped, and I didn't get back into martial arts until I was in college. I took karate. I got my black belt in Kempo karate in there, and then I switched over to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And it definitely teaches you to be disciplined. It teaches you to have patience. To know when to, it gives you that mental fortitude to think what you got to do, what's next, what maneuvers, breathe out, relax, have composure. And then I think a lot of it applies when you're working with a client, especially one who's heavy, crazy, they don't know what they want, or even just working like a lot of late nights and or just having a hectic schedule, just like, all right, breathe, relax, just get through it. You got this. You know the moves. You know what you need to do, and then just let that transfer over. It's just, I think there's a lot of benefits to it beside, obviously you have the health benefit of, being fit and in shape. Even though some people are heavier, they're still in shape. And it works for all sizes. And I think whatever you do with it, whatever martial art you take, it applies in real life, and it gives you the confidence. And I think that's part of it that makes you feel better too. Is like you could go in a meeting, your shit, and you'll be like, all right, this is what I'm pitching. Bam, 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 bam. You like it? No? Okay. Here's the next one. I got to back up. No? Like it?
Yeah, I think there's really something to having that confidence, and being able to walk into a room. I think people see that, and I think, at least in my opinion, I feel like martial arts does a lot to help people's confidence and help them feel more sure. And, and as a designer, as somebody who's pitching work, and especially as an independent designer, somebody who's, trying to earn your own clients, I think that skill set is really valuable. I myself have never done it, so I'm just speculating on how great I think it might be if I got my ass into a jiu-jitsu gym.
Ryan, you ran an MMA clothing company.
Well, yeah.
You had nothing involved.
There's a big separation between that and actually getting in and getting your ass kicked.
Yeah, no, I just paid those guys to wear my gear. That's it.
I like my bruises not on my body.
Yeah, I like my bruises on my opponent.
I've thought about going into like a gym and trying to get involved with it, but I feel like at my age that I'm just going to go in and just break.
Well, I think that's one of the things with jiu-jitsu, right? And Joe, correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't know at all, but I think jiu-jitsu you can actually do until you're quite a bit older.
Yes.
I think it's one of those sports that the way you do it, and I don't know why it's fine for older people, but I guess the style of rolling that you guys do isn't maybe as hard on a body as some other martial arts maybe, or it's not as much impact on a joint or whatever.
Yeah, and for those that don't know, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is a grappling art, and so it's a little bit like it has some wrestling, it has some throws, but it's pretty much the idea was that if in a scenario a fight happens, breaks out, all fights end up on the ground for whatever reason. People always end up grabbing each other and go to the ground, and that part is where they focus on. So you could be on the ground and just moving, and a lot of it to be really good at it. To be good, it's slow moving. You're not fast paced, because if you're going to move into fast pace quickly, you're going to hurt each other. Yeah. So it's just more of like, here you go. This is step by step by step by step. Here we go, and then there, choke. We don't have to always break your arm. We don't have to always attack the foot, the knee. It's just like you're just rolling around the person. It's a lot of thinking involved. It's like human chess, because you're really thinking, if I put my hand here,
a few steps ahead, what's going to happen to me if I
do always this? It's a thinking game, and people, that's what makes it great, is that you become thinking about it. You have to know what's gonna happen next, and here and that. And I think that by having that mentality too, it translates over in business. Like, okay, if I do this, then here are the outcomes for that, and then if I do this, here are the outcomes for this. It's but it's a fitness program that works for older people, younger people. You also go in, you're not trying to rip each other's heads off, because popular thing is tap today, train tomorrow. If you're hurt, you don't have anybody to train with.
Yeah.
So it works best with I've trained with 60-year-old guys before, and we just it's easy. You're just rolling. You're going fluid through the motions, making sure everything's good, technique's correct, because the most important thing is technique. If you don't have technique, nothing's going to work. And that's the same thing with boxing, stand-up. It's all about technique, because you could be sloppy and throwing haymakers, but if you're catching air and I'm moving out the way because my technique's great, I'm bobbing the weaving, but nobody's
you see these videos on YouTube or whatever, like the bouncer that goes up against the guy that thinks he's going to kick his ass. And
yeah, he's usually drunk too.
Yeah, well, it's very obvious who knows what they're doing,
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. So I got to see. So it's good for everybody. I recommend doing it. If you're a little bit older, I won't say do judo or any type of arts that really throw heavy. But
Just Tai Chi in the park.
Tai Chi's good. It's relaxing. It's what you want from it. That's why I see. It's like, what are you going to benefit from it? It's
if I were going into it, I'd be going into it for more of like just having a basic knowledge of self-defense kind of thing, just in case someone decided they wanted to jump me for some odd reason. Like, I don't want to go into a gym and just like, go and get my ass kicked by some guy just because he's, like I've heard rumors like if you go into the wrong gym, it's bad because the wrong teacher, the wrong environment, and everything could actually be detrimental for you.
It could be, but you should know. Usually, every gym, dojo, center, they have some sort of one-day trial program. At least it'll give you an idea of who you're working with, and you get kind of see the environment, and you get to see how they react to you. And if people are good, they're gonna care. Like, hey, I'm not trying to kill you. It's all about the attitude. But if you do step in with an attitude, you're gonna earn. You're gonna get humbled. You just be humble or be humbled. That's
yeah. I could see that.
Yeah, well, Mikey, if you want, we happen to know lots of jiu-jitsu guys up there in Idaho. So if you're
I've
interested,
thought about
I can
it.
point you to a couple gyms probably.
It's hard to decide if it's more than just a pipe dream or if it's something I actually want to do.
Well,
it's a good workout. I say try it out. If it's not for you, it's not for you. Do something else.
Yeah, and I thought about doing it one time too, but it was sort of for a whole body fitness idea. Like I thought maybe that would be something I would do for exercise.
Uh-huh. Oh, right, and you have kids.
And,
I think that could work.
Yeah, we're
nice
wrestling
little family
all the time.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. I can't teach my youngest though. My youngest would go around and choke everybody out.
Yeah, he would.
Oh, really?
Well, he tries already.
Yeah, the rest of us are fine, but if he gets any bigger and he actually had some technique, we'd be in trouble.
I think actually it could work. You could just give him the discipline to be calmer, not just choke at everybody. I think it could work.
Yeah, it might be better for him.
Yeah. So I just look into it. You don't have to do anything, but think about it.
So transitioning back into the design world. So much earlier this year, now that this one's almost done, I had the privilege of heading back out to New York, and I got to catch up with Joe for a couple drinks.
Was this when you were in Boston too?
No. Right before I went out to Boston, I went out to New York for about a week and some change. And while I was out there, I met up with Joe, and he was kind enough to show me around a little bit. Tell us about New York specifically in terms of creativity. Like, is it as competitive as it seems? Is it kind of a friendly scene for designers? Do people scratch each other's back, or like, is it, dog eat dog out there? Like, can you speak at all to the sort of the creative environment in New York?
It's a mixed bag, to be honest. You're gonna find creativity, hands down, no doubt about it. It's like. I was big into hip hop, so graffiti was always one of the things that always drew me in. I think that's also got me into art, with the graffiti and this street art everywhere. It's very vibrant, and you see galleries here and there. Soho, you go to Brooklyn, it's everywhere. And if you go to the right places, you can connect with people and network. And I think networking in general works across the board for everybody. But yeah, it really depends. Like, when it comes to the actual work, people, it's tough out here. It's, you gotta hustle, you gotta, bust your ass.
Yeah, I guess you've got sort of like a Los Angeles kind of vibe, right? People come out to New York to live out a dream. And so you're competing not just with New Yorkers, but you're competing against people from all over the country who've come out there to try their hand at New York City.
Yeah, that's what I say. If you can make it here, you can make it anywhere.
Well, I believe it. And, it's funny because I haven't spent a lot of time in New York. The week I was there was really all I've spent, outside of flying through and some stuff like that. But, it blew out of the water, like every conception or every idea that I had of New York. Like I really enjoyed it there.
Well,
and I wasn't sure that I would, but now granted, I was staying in a nice area, I was staying in a nice hotel. I took some of the the negatives that maybe out of the picture and made my picture a little more rosy. But at the same time, I mean, man, I just enjoyed it there. I love the hustle and the bustle, and I mean, yeah, like you're saying, there's street art everywhere. The prevalence of like the big wall murals and stuff. I mean, they're just the city is just like buzzing with creativity. And I mean, I didn't meet anybody there that wasn't friendly or polite. And you know, most people didn't live up to the sort of the New Yorker predisposition that most of us out west think. So
don't let it fool you. There are people of attitude.
No, Joe, really? and so anyway, but yeah, so that's good to hear about New York. I mean, I guess, you know, like New York, like LA, you know, I mean, I guess any of these big cities, there's a little extra hustle and a little more competition.
Yeah, I mean,
but I guess if you're good, you rise to the top.
Pretty much. Cream rises to the top.
That's right. So in your design career, do you have a favorite client or a favorite project you could talk about? Something that you've done that you were particularly proud of?
Are we heading over to HD territory?
We can go there if that's your spot. I mean, they don't have to be a big client; they could be a little client, whatever. Just something you're proud of, or something you've done that, you know, maybe it was a milestone, maybe it was your first client, maybe it was, you know, I don't know.
It depends. Actually, I liked. I'm proud of the stuff I did through Brandon Barron, through the actual T-shirt line from there, because that part was an eye opener on how to run my business, how to create things, and then realize how fucking difficult it is.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, no.
So
and I can relate to that for sure. So, but yeah, I mean, I have to imagine in New York though, it's got to be tenfold. I mean, there's got to be a clothing line on every corner.
Oh yeah, it's especially. Like I said, everybody has a clothing company. Everybody's a designer. Everybody's this and that. It's how do you stand out, and you have to find a certain niche, see what works. Like it was working. Like I ended up targeting some skate shops that worked for me. I targeted like the sneaker cons and all those sneaker events and anything that more urban, like hip hop festivals and stuff like that. That worked for me. But the weird thing was, I wasn't a sneakerhead. My buddy was a sneakerhead. I had a couple of friends sneakerheads, so they helped me out. And I was like, and I created some shirts for the sneakerheads while I pretty much whatever graphics I had, I was trying to push those as well. And
do you have one shirt that kind of stands out and sold more than the rest, or is there just kind of equal across the board?
No. It definitely falls into the Parkinson law of the 80-20. I know which 20% of my designs made the most of my amount of the money coming in. I would say I have a design called, let's see, I'm gonna go off the top of the head to see what I remember. Probably have this design called Listen to Your Heart. That did well for me. I think I had that idea since I was in college and just happened to translate it when I got out of it and started the business. It's a real heart, with headphones. The headphones connects jack into the heart, but stylistically to a certain way that I did it. I have another one I called it Astro Hop, which is pretty much this astronaut wearing Nike Dunks and with a boombox with a gold 80s heavy chain. That did well. People love that one.
Nice.
Another one that does well for me that I still use, I just changed it up a bit, is my Statue of Liberty design, and it
with the flag.
It's with the flag now. But before it was just a bandana. I had one red. I was debating between red and purple. I did purple because I think the colorways went well because of the Hulk. I didn't do red because I was like, I don't want any issues with people who buy my stuff with the Bloods and all that. So I was like, no. Yeah. I tried it. So, I avoided the bandana colors because I didn't want anything gang related. So I switched that up. And then I switched it to camo because I was like, that's pretty cool. I threw it, and in the camo, I threw like the United States, the shape of it in there, disguised as a nice little treat. Also with like a little bit of one of my logos. And then became what I thought was a genius move, which I should have thought of sooner. I don't know how. Which is it's the Statue of Liberty with the American flag as the bandana.
Yeah, I
yeah,
like it.
and it's actually, I mean, that's the first design of Joe's I ever saw was this in the form of a sticker, and but for me it really represents Branded Baron. It really screams New York. You know, I don't know if it came about or anything in the time or aftermath of like the 9/11s and that kind of thing, but it's super patriotic. It just sort of screams New York to me, and I just love it.
Yeah, it was definitely it was an important design. It's definitely it's so New York, so East Coast, but I think people everywhere seem to like it. I've had people overseas want one or like it. It didn't matter which variation of the design, whether it was the regular bandana, camo, or American flag. People seem to want it, and it was always weird when I found someone, like, especially if they wanted a sticker and they were like from Australia. I'm like, yeah, but that's not, you know, same colors but different flag.
Well, maybe that's a way to breathe new life into it, right? You know, start strapping different flags on there.
Different flags, yeah. America's taking over everywhere.
That's right. So, all right. So, our favorite client is ourselves. Can you tell us about a bad client experience or something that went awry? Just I don't know. It can be funny. It doesn't have to be client pin me in the corner or at gunpoint or anything. It can just be something gone awry.
A bad client.
Or unless you've been lucky and haven't had a lot of these.
No, because I knew I had them. I just probably
try to
buried
blow those
it
over
down
deep.
deep down now, where only that time that comes out is during a therapy session.
Well, you think of us as your therapists. So, but we're the unlicensed, non-credentialed therapist that your mom warned you about.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And then I go to my girlfriend, who's an actual therapist, and be like, yeah. So I had these two knuckleheads tell me about this.
Tell me they were therapists. Yeah,
were they correct at all?
Oh,
like,
see,
no.
That's got to be a hard one though. Having a girlfriend that's a therapist. I'm not sure I'm
Dude,
mentally equipped to duke that out.
Hey, Anderson has the same problem. I mean, same lucky situation.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it never shuts off. But just like a business person or an entrepreneur or whoever, like you never shut off all the time, or even designer. Like I'll see signs. I'm like, that's that font. They could have done this. Like I'll critique things. It never shuts off. So everything.
She's always analyzing everything you say.
Is she constantly responding to you with interesting?
So how's that make you feel? I'll throw it right back at her. So how does that make you feel? So it's a lot of it's interesting, but it also gives a lot of insight of how the human mind, people think.
Oh yeah.
So I'm like, oh okay, I could do this. One time I was hiring a model for a photo shoot, and we were in a negotiating stage. I was like, you know what, I'm not going to use them. Like, cost too high, whatever. But he kept leading on to saying he really wanted this job. Like it was just great opportunity, whatever. And I mean, sure, it was cool. It was a fun shoot. But I didn't respond. And she was like, yeah, just wait. Like he'll come around. Like he really wants this. He'll go to your needs. And I was like, sure enough, she was right. I was like, okay, yeah, there you go. That's why you're the doctor.
Good call.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. So, I guess then you sort of alluded to HD, and so one of your current clients or a client that you do a lot of work for is the illustrious Harley Davidson, yes. Also for the brand Crimson Roses. Can you tell us a little bit about that experience? What it's like designing for clients at that level? Challenges you run into along the way, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Okay. So. It's fun. I kind of act like as an art director designer for a company, and they has the license to create Harley Davidson apparel, and that is a fucking fun job.
I can
to say
imagine.
the least. Yeah. So I mean, So you're talking about tradition. You're talking about American tradition, Americana. You're talking about badass. You're talking about biker chick. You're talking about style. It has it all.
Yeah, there are a few
Right.
brands more iconic than that.
Yeah, there's very few. I mean, it's been around since 1903, so it's a brand that's been around for a while. It's going to celebrate its 115th year in 2018. But it's there's a lot of things that I do. I work with a lot of freelancers, some design firms, and obviously I create stuff myself because I need to create, and that's fun. But there's a lot of things I have to do. Like I have to make sure we have to go through approval process, and sometimes there's certain things that they don't like where it's kind of like, oh, that sucks. It's a badass design. Now we have to like tweak it because that's incorrect. Or some of the changes that they ask are major. Some of them aren't. Some of them just it's confusing. Like I had a design that I actually posted on the gram for all those cool kids out there. It's Instagram. I posted it earlier, a skull with wings. And while that can, how you handle that that idea, it could be really cool, and they could accept it. But if it looks too much like a certain motorcycle club, I'll call it motorcycle club, then they will reject it, and because they don't want to be affiliated with that
They just
very illustrious lifestyle that particular club.
Well, and sort of the lifestyle
likes.
that was the bread and butter years ago, but it's not super,
Yeah,
not super
it
politically
changes.
correct to be that anymore.
Yeah. So I mean, it changed. It's weird. Sometimes they want the rebellious attitude, but they don't. They want to pull it back a bit, and I understand that. It makes perfect sense. But at the same time, you talk about a Harley as a fucking badass bike. You're a badass when you ride that. I mean, come on, Terminator, Arnold Schwarzenegger, in Terminator 2.
Yeah.
He rode on that. I was like, yep.
I got my little scooter just going.
Yep.
Yeah, well, and that's got to be hard
Little
though. 'cause,
moped.
I mean, we won't name the club who shall not be named, but the
No, not at all. I think,
so-
I guess people think about it.
Yeah, I mean, people will know who we're talking about. But I mean,
course.
you've got to be like, as a designer doing work for Harley Davidson. I mean, that really hamstrings you. I mean, you've got to be super. I mean, that's like taking away two of the biggest tools in a Harley designer's arsenal is to take away your wings and mess with your skulls. I mean,
Well, it's just it's really if you combine the two. Like we have some badass skulls, definitely, and skulls are fun. It's just how you approach it, how you create it, how do you make it different. Because you see one skull, you see them all, or have you? We just got to change it away. Yeah, no, and wings work. You just have to change it up a bit. Maybe you put their logo, their bar and shield, add some wings to it, and you have a nice little women's design. Or it's how you create it. It's just combining those two elements. It's just kind of it's a little bit difficult.
yeah, and so
But that being,
I think that's interesting insight though for people who it might just sort of. I don't know. I like these kinds of things, right? For when you work with larger brands like this, and they do have sort of some brand standard and some other things kind of locked down. I think it's interesting, how a designer has to solve the challenges of, being in a particular space. In this case, you're working with skulls and wings and fire and all the normal trappings of Harley branding and marketing. But at the same time, you have to be conscious of not looking too similar to something that might not pass muster with Harley. I think that's really an interesting thing.
it is, and then also and another thing is, like, if you're working with designing a T-shirt with a bike on it, it has to be exact, especially if it's a vintage bike. Like I was working on an old design.
You can't take a fender off of a new bike and put it on the old vintage one.
Yeah, no, you can't do that. People. How people are like comic book nerds when they see a movie and like, he should have had this on. Why doesn't he look like that? Yeah.
Oh God, that must be rampant with Harley fans.
No, surprisingly, it really is. When it comes, we had a design that had an engine. We call it like the engine tour, and it lists all the engines and the years that they came out. One of them, they were arguing. We had a couple of dealerships that they were saying, "Hey, no, that's incorrect. They came out this year and in that year." And I'm like, "No, that's incorrect. This is when it started, and this is when it came out." So it's like people are very technical. You have gearheads and people who are just like really into it, and they're they're loyal to the brand. They know everything about the brand, and you just got to come correct all the time. So it's just one of those things where like, all right, for future reference, we'll change a couple things up where it works. But at the end of the day, Harley has to have final approval, and it's like, yeah, they looked over it. It was okay. They corrected me on what the actual year was because everyone, there was a question mark that we weren't sure about.
Yeah. So, but getting something past Harley corporate has got to be kind of a warm fuzzy for you. That's got to be a bit of a win. I mean,
of course.
I have to imagine those guys are sticklers, and if they'll take your design and run with it, that's I think a pretty good vote of confidence.
Oh, it's so exciting. I love doing that. I love, whether it's a men's shirt or a women's design or even a kid's shirt. I'm like, dude, I got it all. I'm like, boom, boom, bang, kill it.
So that's awesome. So one question I wanted to ask too is, so how did you wind up in Cleveland? What do you think the importance is of getting together with fellow creatives? So you came out to Cleveland for, like we talked about, the Weapons of Mass Creation Fest. What do you think? First of all, why did you come? And did you just come out because Anderson and those guys were coming, or what? And then what do you think is the importance of just, you mentioned already the importance of networking, but taking that time and getting together with fellow creatives and just kind of spending time together?
All right, Ryan. Let this be said. I brought everybody together. That whole group. It was because of me, moi, and Will tell you. Oddly, it is. Even Will pointed out. Will Truen, for those that don't know, from a Noble Folk Design.
Yep, our first interview, actually.
Yeah, first interview.
Yep.
He also is a successful. Had some success in the Harley design world. Because yours truly, said, hey, Will, I think you'd be good for this.
Hey, well, don't forget, you've got some other friends in the design business, and for
Ryan, some people come in number 2.
Hey. So for people who didn't hear it, Will Truren's episode is episode 15. So go back and check Will out. He was a lot of fun, and Noble Folks Design is great. You got to follow those guys.
Yeah, check it out. Check them out.
But all this time,
Ryan, we'll discuss. No problem.
Well, see, it's good to know though, because now I kind of gave credit to Anderson because he was the one that was taking my texts or whatever, because I was hitting people up
because
just
he was on
randomly
Instagram.
And
I'm just hanging out.
Yeah, I didn't realize that I was actually talking to you right now to the main organizer.
Yeah, just because I was the loud one in the group doesn't mean anything. What it was, the situation. Let's see. I went the year before to WMC Fest, and so I met Will there.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, so we ended up meeting, and then we ended up meeting a couple more people, and that's how things came about. I knew about Weapons of Mass Creation Fest for a while, and I've always wanted to go. I followed Go Media, who's like the main sponsor for that organization, for that festival, and I knew I wanted to do it. I knew I wanted to be a part. I wanted to check it out. It just happened to be like a bad year. Like things were just not on the happy scale. I wasn't happy at all. So I was like, I need a break. I need something creative. I need some sort of juice. So I went out there, and I was listening to a bunch of podcasts. They had interviews with designers and other artists, and just met people and just hung out, and it just kind of gave me that juice of what I needed, especially since two of the headliners were from New York, Debbie Millman and Michael Beirut from Pentagram. Michael Beirut, yeah, they both work in New York, and it was just one of those things that made me feel good after listening to, especially Debbie Millman, because for those who are still working the career up, she pretty much said that she didn't really take off, her career didn't launch until like her early 30s. So that kind of gave everyone I was around with like a little sense of hope. It's like, all right, it's like, don't worry, you're still in your late 20s, early 30s, you're still good. I was like, okay, I still got this. Like, still make it work. I'm like, all right. But I always liked that. I always thought that what they had was pretty cool. Have speakers, and I wanted to go to a conference, and figured, let me go to Cleveland, like one of the biggest small cities that the states have, and it was meet people. And then the next year I was like, hey Anderson, you gotta go, you gotta come, let's check it out. Before that came, I checked out Creative South, which is another conference, which is pretty cool, pretty homely, pretty awesome. If you two do definitely come out, I think it'll be a fun time.
Yeah, and that's the big plan, is to come out in April. I don't know the dates right off the top of my head, but it's in April. Check it out. It's creativesouth.com. And it's one of these conferences. And, I don't go to a lot of these events, but the one in Cleveland, we made this pact of designers and creative people and sort of palled around. And, and I mean, that was 2 years ago now. I mean, we're still kind of keeping that going, and but the same group of guys goes to Creative South, goes to WMC Fest, all this stuff. And so not only do you get to do some networking, but you make some friends, you meet some people. I mean, for me, it was really cool to come out and meet all you guys. And like you mentioned, some of the speakers at WMC Fest have been really good. The year that I went, sort of one of the bigger names was Stefan Sagmeister, who I think is kind of an interesting cat, so I was really excited to come out and see him. And there were a handful of others too that were just awesome. And but I think being in sort of that environment with a lot of other creative people and spending that time sort of developing a rapport and having sort of a, I guess for lack of a better term, sort of a brotherhood or a friendship, among people who are sort of your peers and work in the same business. I mean, super beneficial for me, even though it's not something tangible, it's still, I think like the memories that I was left with, the experience I was left with, and the way it's helped me going forward were all totally worth making the trip. And yeah, so anyway, looking forward to Creative South this year.
It's awesome. And you'll get the same feeling there at Creative South, which is at April 12th to the 14th. And especially since their slogan is all about
hug next.
Come as friends, leave as family. Yeah, hug next. Which is good. I mean, they both apply the same thing. They're both small conferences for those who are in the creative field, but it's worth it. It's definitely good to meet other people. It kind of has that, like, for a white collar job, that blue collar feel.
Yeah,
where everyone's just busting elbow, put some elbow grease on it.
So I'm on your website right now, brandonbarron.com, and checking out your illustrations. They're pretty badass, dude. Like, some of these are pretty in-depth, vector imagery. And is this just stuff you do for fun, or is this stuff you've done for clients, or is this, Oh,
it could be both.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a little bit of, yeah.
The easy answer, it's for everyone.
It's for everyone. There's one for that and one for that. It depends, really. It depends on who wants to hire me. Like, I've done, I had someone from college hit me up, like, randomly. I'm like, hey, I need you to design a logo. I'm like, cool, I could do that. And it wasn't even like a boring logo. It was, they wanted a mascot design. I was like, fucking, that's awesome. I enjoy doing that.
Is that the lumberjack guy right here?
No, it was not. That one actually was for fun. And yeah, I like the lumberjack.
Yeah.
Nobody wanted it, so but I put it out there. No, it's totally different. I have a whole thing for even like sport design mascots, because I still have a little passion in me to do some sort of sports branding at some point. Yeah, because I mean, it just varies. I just want to show that I can do a variety of things. Specifically in, that's a certain style that I have. I have a certain style that I've kind of accepted that what I'm good at. Even though I'm always trying to improve. But yeah, no, it just, a lot of it was just personal. Some of it just, just that whole phrase that people like put out, and like, create the work that you like and you'll receive it, and do what you want and people will come after you, paying you.
Yeah, I've
sadly, some of it, not sadly, luckily, it's amazing that, wow, there's truth to that. And being that, some of the style was for Harley, I had a little edge to it. It ended up working out, and I was like, this is fantastic. I'm like, all right, now we're rocking and rolling. Let's kick some ass.
Well, cool.
But yeah, no, it depends. Yeah, so I had fun with it. Yeah, it's sometimes I'll just draw, because on top of that, a lot of things I do for fun is just like, is work.
Yeah.
Like, it's just what it is.
Yeah.
Like, okay, It's something that I do. I enjoy. I will draw naturally. Like I'll have a sketchbook. I need a new sketchbook because I have like 2 pages left. And my sketches are just doodles sometimes. Sometimes they're full out black and white marker or color marker, or I actually have new color pencils, or I have canvases. It's just, for me, it's just part of who I am. And it's just, I have to be some sort of artist. I'm a creative. And whatever that means, it's whether it's visually, by paint, or I'm on the computer, hitting the mouse, click, 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 click. It doesn't matter. I just need to be doing that. That's just part of me. I need to get it out. It's fun. It's a little bit therapeutic. Sometimes the therapeutic stuff come out. It's rare because I try not to get myself into a negative, bad point in my life. I try to stay level-headed as best. But some of it, sometimes that creates good art. And that's just fun to me. Give me a blank sheet. Give me a pencil. Yeah. What do you want? You want me to do a caricature? Fine, I'll do that.
Well, it's one of those things. I mean, it's a little cliche to say it, but it's if you enjoy what you do, it's not work. I mean, it doesn't feel like you're working when you love it.
Dude, I hate doing like taxes and stuff like that. That's the fucking worst.
Exactly. But you can sit and design a T-shirt all afternoon.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could do that, no problem. I'm like, yeah, sure, no problem. You want it? Boom, sent.
Cool. All right, Joe. Well, with that, let's wrap this baby up. You got anything else you'd like to touch on, or anything else you want to say before we get out of here?
You're putting me on the spot.
Yeah, that's what we do around here.
Right? It's awesome. It's a good time. I say to all those out there listening, stay creative, have fun. Kick ass.
Oh, I like that.
Yep. That's it.
That's
cool.
it. No,
it's a wrap.
I love it.
Well,
cool.
thanks for coming on the show. Yeah, we really appreciate you spending the time.
Find out more about Joe at brandedbaron.com is probably the best place, but of course he's on all the socials too, at brandedbaron on Twitter, at brandedbaron on Instagram, Pinterest, Dribble, just about every place. And Joe, man, thanks so much for coming in and not only saving our ass, but having a fun time.
So I do. I back cleanup. I take care of it.
I knew I could rely on you
Thanks
when you
for
came
having
through
me.
with bells on, man. So just to get through our plugs, everybody make sure you stop by our website, eggscast.com, to learn more about me, R2 Media Group. Go to r2mg.com or at r2mg on Twitter or at R2 Media Group on Instagram.
You can find out more about me at djontic.com. That's ONTIC. And all my social links are there. And yeah, once again, thanks for coming out, Joe. Really appreciate you taking the time.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
And with that, we're out of here. Everybody have a great
Peace.
Have a great week, and we'll see you next time.
All right.